Hello, my name is Paige Mack,
Hello, my name is Donna West.
and we are going to embark on the video assignment that is about disadvantages and disabilities. And my mother will be my partner. So, we'll go right into it. So, the first video that we listened to was Stella Young. The video was titled "I'm Not Your Inspiration. Thank you very much." So, the first question on the assignment for the reflection was, what is the essential theme that the speaker is trying to communicate? So, what do you think Miss Stella Young was trying to communicate, in your opinion, Mommy?
Just that she didn't want it to, the stereotype of the disabilities to be in anybody inspiration. They wanted it, she wanted it to be, we're just people. We're just, regular people who are doing regular things. We're not extraordinary because we're living with a disability. And that most of the time that people feel like they're an inspiration. They don't feel like they're just normal teachers and doctors and whatever it is that they can be. She just felt like they were just propped up to be these inspirations, but not real live people.
I definitely agree with my mother. I took the video in a sense of like, hey, am I doing that? That's kind of interesting to how they're looking at it. To say that when people stop you, Miss Young was saying that when people stop you, to want to say you're an inspiration and keep going and doing those things that come off to as being positive, but essentially can be taken as a negative. And I was like, how can you take someone coming up to you saying how much of an inspiration you are? But I listened to what she was saying, and the pictures and images that she was portraying was basically like, if he can do it or if she can do it and they're in this really messed up situation, there's no excuse for you. Where in terms, it's basically saying they're in a horrible situation. They're barely, waking up in the morning, and you can do that. So you can be up to their level and even more if you get just try. So I thought that was um really like eye opening to like see, especially wanting to be a special education teacher. You want to be able to see the point of view of the student. The next question with the reflection was, as a temporarily able-bodied person, what is the first reaction to this theme? So, as a temporarily able-bodied person, I don't know the temporary. Yeah, you can go. I don't know what temporarily.
Temporarily able bodied. It just means a person who doesn't have a disability. We can move about. There's no restrictions on us about this thing. Me personally, I don't. I was telling my daughter as we were watching it, I don't do people that way. I don't. I mean, I may be in the minority in that case where I just take you as you are. I'm not trying to treat you special. You know, you may need special things. Because when Paige was younger, she needed some special assistance and different assistance and different things like reading and things like that. But no, I'm not treating her any different. So for me, it was a different type of thing. And when I seen the title and it said, "I'm not your inspiration," and I'm like, okay, what she mean by that? I'm not inspired. So I'm not understanding what that means. But once she started talking, I get what she's saying, because most people do think that way. Oh, I'm all inspired because this so-called disabled person is doing these things. No, that's not what inspires me personally. But I do get what she's saying. People do that. So that's not foreign what she's saying. Um, so that is you. So as an able-bodied person, me personally, I didn't think that. I was just wondering what she was going to talk about, as far as, you haven't said anything to inspire me yet. So I don't know what the inspiration would be. and she even said it. There was a story that she told in the beginning about how some people came to her parents saying, "Hey, we want to give her an achievement." They was like, "She hadn't done anything. What you achieve? What's she gonna achieve?" And she was like, "Yeah, I haven't." So that's the way I looked at it. I looked at it the way her and her parents did. Wait till I achieve something before you start saying that, you're some type of inspiration or achievement. That's how I got it.
Yeah, and again, I understood what she was saying in those terms, just like my mother. My first reaction to the theme was, looking to see, what she has to say. Like, because, TED Talks are really, trying to inspire you and poking at you and, like, do this and I have a really cool story to get to the, the point of why I'm talking. So I was looking to be inspired, this TED Talk, who doesn't look at a TED Talk looking to be inspired? Those are essentially what those are for. So when she like outright said it, it was kind of like, oh, what are we going to talk about then? And then when I realized that she was disabled and where she was going, I understood. So then moving right along, the next question of what other ideas are communicated throughout the speaker's appearance, adaptation device, presentation style, or stance. She's in a wheelchair. Her body is restraining her from being able to do the movements that we are able to do. So it wasn't really anything like, and I think she had something with her face where she like it freezes. So her whole entire body, head to toe, is not as mobile as the average person. So I don't think how she communicated it. It was just like a regular person who was just sitting, still trying to convey a presentation. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought she did fine. Like I said, I mean, seeing somebody in a wheelchair and sitting down and speaking, I'm going to listen to them just like I would listen to anybody else talking. No, she didn't have the mobility as far as moving back and forth. But to me, I prefer that. I don't want to be doing all this the whole time you talking. I prefer to look at you directly and see what it is that you're saying and what you're talking about. I don't necessarily have to agree with everything, but I can get what I can from your speech. And I feel like, her other ideas to communicate, I think she communicated well. I think she had slides, just like anybody else would doing a presentation or a speech. She had, visuals for you. So it's the same to me. If anybody else would have been speaking, she gave, points. She was detailed in what she was saying. So I thought her communication was good. I thought she communicated very well.
Yeah, so, and then moving on to the final question for Miss Young's individual reflection, because at the end it's asking how are the experience of the two people alike, so both of the people that we watched the TED Talk about. Okay. So the final with Miss Young is how would you feel about having to deal with a person on a daily basis? I think this is kind of funny because that's kind of what I want to do. Mm-hmm. I've been around and I've had experience with people who are disabled, who are in wheelchairs, who are unable to speak, who are unable to move. There's various of disabilities, even some that I'm just learning about and I don't even know. I don't have that in not comfortable type of way around people who are disabled like the normal person would. I'm more of I think it kind of goes into my personality of being outgoing and a people's person, and also wanting to know whys instead of, just, cutting people off, those type of things. So I don't feel I would feel a way about a person who is disabled. I treat them as if they are a person who is able. So yeah, I don't feel that question's kind of hard for me. What do you think, Mommy?
I do think that it is a special person. I do. who can deal with all types of disabilities. I think it takes a different type of person, a special type of person, at least to teach them. I feel like there's many, many, many different disabilities. Some visible, some not. Some you can see right offhand, some you can't see. I think that a person who is comfortable within themselves has no issue with anybody else that is living however they have to live. You have to understand that people are born different ways, and that's simply the case. It doesn't have to. You don't have to be affected by it. I mean, some people are uncomfortable, but that's where your comfortability in somebody else's situation is weird to me, because it doesn't have anything to do with you unless you are specifically working with them, and then if you are working with them, then you're equipped to. So if I see people with what they call disabilities, I treat them the same way I would treat anybody else with so-called non-disabilities. I mean, I'm going about my normal day speaking the same type of thing. So, I think it just depends on the individual and how they, because a lot of people, it's weird. They feel guilty. Why? You didn't do anything. So, but people do have that feeling of guilt sometimes of watching of people who have disabilities. So I think that's what that is sometimes.
Yeah, totally agree with that. It's depending on the person that you are individually and how you accept other people around you. So moving on to Miss Amy, is that her name? Aime.
Mm-hmm.
So Amy Mullins or whatever.
Is it Mullins?
Mullins. Amy Mullins, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So her topic on TED Talk, the title of The Opportunity of Adversity. So we're going to do the same thing, run back the questions, but apply it to Miss Amy. I think the first time my mother started it off, so I'll go ahead and kick it off with Miss Amy. So what is the essential theme that the speaker is trying to communicate? The Miss Amy, although kind of similar to Miss Young, she's trying to communicate that words have power. They have enormous amount of power that people ignore. Off the rip, she opens up and gives us the definition of disability, and it is very shocking and very like, oh my gosh, like these words are all bad. Like there's no positive light in these words that they're using to describe her. So, and it was in a thesaurus, and she also this thesaurus was dated. So she also looked back until the latest of 2009, and it was still the similar words. It wasn't, easing off the shots to disable people, nor was it progressive. So that was mind-boggling. That's the main theme, the main meat of what Miss Amy was trying to convey. The theme of it.
Yeah, the words were really bad. I actually had never looked up the word disabled either, and I would have never used those words that was used in the thesaurus. It was really horrible.
Yeah.
And when I think about being disabled, I didn't think about any of those words that they were using. Maimed, lame, just useless. Those words were horrible, and I've never thought about those words.
No, that's crazy.
Never.
Yeah.
So it was shocking, because I remember when we were both watching it, we was like this. Like, what in the world? But that was shocking that people and words, and I am a believer in words having power. Absolutely. So I'm glad that because she said initially that she was 5, so I'm glad she wasn't looking at those words.
Yeah, she did state that
at that age
she wasn't looking at
so
those.
it couldn't form her into what other people's definitions of you are. So.
But what did form her was her doctor, who, why is a child excited and happy about being at the doctor's office? Why? Because she grew up in that area due to the disabled body. So her doctor put power into her, as my mom usually says. Mm-hmm. He put power into her, and saying that she could do it, and saying how strong she was. As and that's just kind of getting off of the structured question, but I did want to throw that in there. As a temporarily able-bodied person, what is the first reaction to this theme? I was like, literally, I wouldn't have known that she was disabled without that picture. I actually kind of forgot because the picture was only like a little glance, and then it was back. So I wouldn't have known that she was disabled. She was, I didn't see any physical characteristics that she was disabled until they showed us that, she didn't have legs nor feet, So it was, the first reaction was like, oh, what's going on? Are you disabled? So it was like kind of that for me. What about you, Mommy?
My first reaction was, the same. But we did see the picture of her prior, so as an able-bodied person, she was speaking, and she was able-bodied as well. Mm-hmm. So, the theme I thought was good, because her theme was basically what words do, right? Because mm-hmm. if we hadn't known, that she had something, we wouldn't have known, mm-hmm. right? Basically. So the label of people and labeling of people was very crucial. So, the theme was, was on point, I think.
Moving on to our next question is, what other ideas are communicated through the speaker's appearance, adaptive devices, presentation style, and stance? What I'll take from this is presentation style. I loved how she kicked off with the definitions. I loved how she gave us a story of why those definitions could either hinder or you get better definitions and better vocabulary that could empower a child. Like I said previously, who is excited to go to the hospital and be at the hospital and do these things? The only thing that she did not enjoy at the hospital was doing the bands. Those are the only things that she didn't enjoy. And somehow Dr. P made it so that she would enjoy that by having incentives and making sure that put, words that empower her into her mindset. So, although she didn't like doing the bands, she knew if she broke it, she was getting $100, and she knew that Dr. P had her back. So I thought her presentation style really conveyed the main points of her presentation.
While her style and stance, I would make mention of, I thought her style and stance was great. I felt like that she had been in her body for many years, and she was established in it and comfortable in it. In her disability with her legs that she uses, prosthetics or whatever what they're called, she moved very well in it. She was comfortable in what it is that is her life, So I thought her communication, her presentation was good. I thought that she evoked people understanding, like what these words do or what they can do, to people. If you looked at her, what part of her is lame? Mm-hmm. Or what part of her is mangled?
Right.
Or what part of her is useless? I've seen a very useful woman walking back and forth, speaking knowledge and power into others, and helping them understand, what, this part of society has to deal with, with words, So I thought she communicated really well in that, So I thought she did a good job in, the difference between I'm disabled, but this definition is way off.
Right. So the next question, of course, the order of how do you feel having to deal with this type of person on a daily basis. Kind of the same thing as Miss Young. That's like a broader question, so we don't have to give an individual answer for Miss Amy. So we're gonna go right into the final of how are the experiences of the two people alike or different. I think that Miss Amy and Miss Stella had a lot of things that are in common, like being disabled, having to grow up in a sense of having to, advance over your own self, your own body, before you can advance over other things that, typical people advance over. But I also think that they have very different stances as well. Miss Stella, she went in saying that she's not an inspiration. This is just a normal day. This is just who she is, and she's just doing what she can in her body that the Lord has given her. Whereas, Miss Amy was like, I was in this, and I'm going to make sure that I succeed within this body, and words do matter. So I think how they held themselves was different. Like in our lecture today, they had the same genotype, but because of things that going on in their life came off of a different phenotype. So I thought that was they have a lot of similarities in terms of their genotype, where both of them have the same or along the lines of a disability, and then a phenotype where both of them have disabilities, but both of them reflected or move in different ways within their disability. So
very good. My opinion is that they both approached it differently. They both have disabilities, but Stella was speaking about how the positivity of it, even though she didn't want to be an inspiration, people meant it as a positive thing when they talked about Stella. Oh, you're an inspiration. Mm-hmm. You're able to do this and you're able to do that. It was more of a, even though it was, misplaced empathy. Mm-hmm. It still was. They're trying. They mean well. People mean well when they're trying to say, "Oh, you're an inspiration," and she's overcoming that, saying, "Hey, I'm just a person, mm-hmm. right? And once I do deserve accolades, then give them to me, mm-hmm. right? Then I'll accept that." As to where Amy was like, this is the negative part of being disabled. Mm-hmm. What people view us as, mm-hmm. and what is really happening. I've overcome that, mm-hmm. And I'm telling you why, and giving you the reasons why, because it's, yeah, they think we're inspirational, but oh, you're all of these negative things. Mm-hmm. So it was a different approach by each of them, but very educational from each of them. Again, for somebody who may not understand that, you can say, hey, I'm a person. My body may not allow me to do certain things, but I'm still, a person. But I can overcome them too. So I thought that they both conveyed, their disabilities very well.
Yes.
And let us know that, hey, just treat me
like
you would anybody else, with
right.
dignity and respect, mm-hmm. non-labels, and just treat me as I would, because whatever I need, I've gotten it, right?
Right.
Whatever, I need a wheelchair, I'm in it. I got it already. So I don't need any of your sympathies.
Right.
I don't have any legs. I got my prosthetics. I got what I need.
I got it.
Already. So
I got it.
You don't have to say I'm lame or mangled or anything like that.
I got it.
You don't have to do that. You can just move in that way. So I thought it was great. They both did a great job in letting people know, because I like letting people know.
I liked both of the videos. Hopefully, prayerfully, this has sound. Because I'm just thinking, like, oh my gosh, hopefully this has sound. So, hopefully that happens. And if it does, then you will hear the end of that, me saying, hopefully it has sound. Hopefully we do that. So, thank you for listening. And I hope I exceeded the expectations for this discussion, reflection prompt, working with a partner.